In a perfect world, you'd be able to mind your own business and cheerfully run a successful online business without being harassed by quote-unquote cyber thugs. However, until that perfect world comes, you'll need to slap a great big keep out sign on your website. This means creating security settings that will disallow access to sensitive data and controls. This video will go over how to take these simple steps and keep your website safe from hackers. Now, unless you're the FBI, CIA, or the IRS, or someone else with a sensitive, high-profile organization, you won't exactly be getting targeted by sophisticated hackers. However, every day there's a steady stream of amateur hackers who create automated scripts to penetrate people's web security and deface their websites. As you can imagine, fixing the damage done by these script kiddies, or more generally known as jerks, can be time-consuming. And all the while, you could be losing business and credibility. So let's take a look at a few simple things you can do to keep these types of hackers from accessing your site. When you monitor the logs of your website, you'll find that hack attempts typically come from the user agent libwww-perl. These user agents attempt to access pages or URLs on your site for the sake of injecting code or uploading files onto your site. Once these scripts, usually called botnet scripts, are injected or uploaded, they can wreak havoc on your website and disable many of your interactive functions, such as server-side programs. These types of hacks can be prevented by simply blocking access from their user agents and URLs, which include the command =HTTP. =HTTP is a common code which is used by hackers attempting to access your site and connect it to another site, which in turn contains the malicious script or software. For example, taking this site and connecting it to this one. But don't sweat, again, this kind of attack can easily be prevented by simply adding a code to your htaccess file, which disallows the libperl user agents from accessing your site. In addition to blocking access from potentially harmful agents, you'll also want to block directory browsing on your website. When directory browsing is enabled, users can access directories and folders which contain your files. And this means not only your web pages, but your CSS files, your JavaScript, and any other files which are uploaded onto your server. You can block directory browsing on your site using the following steps. Click on the Index Manager option from your CNC panel. Then click on the directory or folder for which you want to disable browsing. Select the No Index option and save your settings. Once you've completed this, you can double-check the blocked settings by typing the directory URL into your browser. Then repeat these steps for every directory that you wish to block directory browsing on, which, with very few exceptions, should be all of your directories. In addition to blocking directory browsing and user agents, you or your web programmer can change any scripts using the get command and replace it with post instead. Without getting into the very detailed explanation of the difference, the get command is much less secure than post, and there's really no difference in the options provided by either. Also, before you change any of your file permissions to 777 read-write-execute, be sure that you have a specific reason for doing so. Most of the time, it's better for you to leave these changes to your web programmer. But if you purchase a piece of server-side software that requires you to change file permissions to 777, just be sure that you thoroughly research it on all the major search engines before using it and proceed with caution. If you require the assistance of a web programmer to complete any of these tasks, you can easily hire one, and all of these steps will take no more than 1 hour. In fact, you can also hire them to create your robots.txt file, to execute your file compression and create your meta tags, and the like, all of which they can complete as a reasonably small and inexpensive job. Anyway, these simple security measures will keep most cyber thugs out of your website. But if you feel that your site might become the target of more experienced and determined hackers, then your next course of action would be to hire a professional web security consultant. But again, unless you're some high-profile organization with super sensitive and valuable data on your site, then all these measures we've already discussed will most likely solve your security concerns. Now, protecting your email information and email addresses is also a very crucial security aspect. Hackers and spammers are always searching for website owner and user personal information that they can exploit. If they succeed, of course it not only damages your credibility, but it also negatively affects your email deliverability rate, and therefore revenue and ROI from your email marketing campaigns. So one of the most important things you can do to protect your email information from hackers is to add an SPF record. This is a type of domain name service or DNS record that allows email systems to check if the sender of a message comes from a legitimate source, or if not, then refuse the email if a source is not legitimate. It's not difficult to do, and in fact we've got a video on that specifically. Now let's look at another security aspect. By choosing to use SEO as our main marketing technique, we actually give up a portion of our control to a third party. And that third party is, drumroll, Google. Cooperating with Google and adhering to their standards can bring high rewards, so this trade-off of control is usually worth it. Google wants to receive new website submissions which will provide the answers to their users' search queries, and in turn, we internet marketers get targeted traffic from these submissions. Seems like a fair trade. However, it doesn't always work out so glowingly. Within the past 2 years, Google has been releasing algorithm updates on a very large scale. These updates specifically target different types of websites. The Mayday update, for example, targeted quote-unquote Google sniper websites, which are those with only a page or two of content built with the sole purpose of getting high rankings with as little effort as possible, and selling products or collecting emails, which gamed Google's algorithm to fill up popular search results with these spammy websites. With the Mayday update, many marketers' full-time incomes were gone overnight. Then Google followed this with the Panda update. Although this update was more subtle, the results were actually really staggering. Massive sites which were previously viewed as authority websites lost huge portions of their traffic. And of course, the story doesn't end there. With each of these updates, Google is clearing the web of spam content and filler niche websites. But these spammy websites aren't the only victims. Much like the food chain, when you disrupt one group of websites, you dramatically affect the entire internet. So when Google updates its algorithm, it can drastically affect all the websites on the internet, even the white hat websites. So let's quickly go over a few essential tips to help your website weather any future algorithm updates. The first and most important factor to remember might seem quite obvious at first. Provide each visitor to your website with a great browsing experience. Think about how you experience the sites you find. You search Google looking for answers, and if the first site you visit is exactly what you're looking for, that's ideal, right? This is the effect we need to have with our own websites. But although this factor is quite obvious, it's too often neglected due to laziness or lack of time or whatever. It's not easy to create a great user experience. You need to provide quality content and test it multiple times. Determine what the market wants out of your website and deliver that experience. If you can deliver the ideal experience to your visitors, then your odds of avoiding damage in a future update is dramatically increased. Now, if you're outsourcing content, which is fine, be sure to do a quality check. Content creation can be an extremely time-consuming process. Each new website requires pages and pages of fresh content. If your goal is to run a large authority website, then you'll need hundreds of pages of content. So for this reason, outsourcing content is extremely popular and practical. But of course, it can be a double-edged sword. When you outsource content, you're again putting control in the hands of someone else. Now, if you have great writers working for you, this isn't a problem. But if you have a lower budget, then you may find that your written content suffers. With the Panda update, it has become clear that Google uses content as a massive factor when determining which websites are spam or fluff. It's more important than ever to hire competent writers and create quality, unique content. The Mayday update showed us exactly what Google thinks of filler websites. If your website is not an expert or authority in your niche, your chances of being affected in a future update increase exponentially. Expert and authority status is gained through good content and consistency. If you can provide excellent content within one area of your niche, you will gain authority in that specific area. At this point, it's time to expand into other parts of your niche. This process demands fresh content for each area you expand into. If all this content is spot on and well written, Google will begin to view your website as an authority within your niche. Although it's true the Panda update did hit several known authority websites, really these websites blatantly played against the unwritten law of quality content, and as a result, they were penalized. It's worth noting though that even though these websites were obviously churning out subpar content, since they were classified as authority websites, Google was extremely hesitant to pull the trigger, although they finally did. So if you run an authority website with quality content, then you're in an excellent spot for the long term. Last but not least, be sure to stick with white hat SEO techniques only. It can be tempting to spam links and manipulate Google's algorithm, but this will very likely be detrimental to your website's success. SEO takes time, and just because the only way to speed up that process is to game the search engine doesn't mean it's a good road to go down. As we've seen in the past, black and gray hat SEO can spell disaster for your website's future, so it's always worth it to go 100% white hat. It might take more time, but you can be sure that your website's future is much more stable than a website that ranks due to shady and manipulative SEO techniques. So be sure to stay updated on what Google is doing. Although Google has the final word with your website, by creating excellent content and staying within white hat SEO, your website will have the best possible chance of succeeding regardless of all the Google updates. Feel free to check out our other videos so you can keep fine-tuning and getting the most out of your SEO. And click subscribe to stay updated with new tips and tricks to get you to the top of the search engine results pages.